Picture this. You've been careful, you've been smart, you've been doing exactly what you were told, putting that SPF 50 on every single morning before you go out into the world, and you still got burned. Not by the sun, by your finances. Because here's what nobody tells you: almost everything you think you know about protecting yourself, from UV rays, from debt, from financial ruin, follows the exact same pattern, the same flawed logic, the same incomplete science, the same dangerous half-truths sold to you with confidence and good intentions. Today we are going to tear the label off the bottle. I am going to walk you through 11 financial truths hiding inside the science of sunscreen. Some of these will make you rethink how you budget. Some will change how you think about debt. And at least one of them, I promise you, is going to make you feel like someone finally told you the truth after years of being sold a very expensive bottle of something that wasn't doing what you thought. We're going to talk about the damage that happens before you feel it. We're going to talk about why your natural protection strategy has an expiration point. We're going to talk about why the chemical versus natural debate in your money life is the wrong conversation entirely. And we're going to close with the math, the SPF math, the number everyone quotes but almost nobody actually understands. Stay with me. This one is different. Let's start with something the dermatologists say that the financial advisors should be saying too. UV radiation doesn't burn you the moment it hits your skin. It damages you at the cellular level, quietly, invisibly, long before you see a single red mark. The mutation happens first. The consequence comes later. Your finances work the same way. Every time you spend slightly more than you earn, you are not failing visibly. Your lights are still on. Your car still starts. Nobody can see it from the outside. But at the cellular level of your financial life, your savings rate, your net worth, your retirement runway, a mutation is happening. The dangerous thing about cellular damage is that it is cumulative. One day in the sun without protection does not give you cancer. 30 years of days in the sun without protection might. 1 month of slightly overspending does not ruin you. 30 years of it absolutely can. And here is the part that breaks people's hearts when they finally see it. The damage was happening the whole time they thought they were fine. The number one financial mistake people make is not a big dramatic collapse. It is a long, quiet accumulation of small, invisible damage. $20 here, a subscription there, a slightly too expensive car payment that felt manageable. The equivalent of going outside at noon in June in Florida with no sunscreen for 30 years and being surprised when the dermatologist shows you the results. The mutation happens first. Protect yourself before you see the burn. Now, what does a burn actually look like? In skincare terms, sunburn is your body's inflammatory response to radiation damage. It is not the damage itself. The redness, the pain, the peeling, those are your body saying, something went wrong and now I have to deal with it. In financial terms, a financial burn is the moment the invisible damage becomes visible. It is the overdraft notice, the minimum payment that has grown too large to keep up with. The retirement account you haven't started at 42, the moment you sit down and do the math and realize the numbers don't work. The burn feels like a crisis, and it is a crisis, but it is not the problem. It is the symptom. The problem was the 30 years of unprotected exposure that preceded it. Here is why this distinction matters practically. Most financial advice focuses on treating the burn. Debt snowball methods, budgeting apps, spending audits, these things have value, but they are anti-inflammatories. They are the aloe vera. Real financial health is about not getting burned in the first place. It is about understanding the radiation, the constant invisible pressure that your spending exerts on your financial future, and making choices today that protect you tomorrow before you see a single red mark. If you are currently dealing with a financial burn, debt, overdrafts, financial stress, I am not dismissing that. We will address it. But I want you to understand the full picture before we talk about treatment. You need to know what caused the burn before you can stop it from happening again. Here is a question. A lot of people actually ask about sunscreen. Do I need it in the winter? Do I need it when it's cloudy? What about early morning or late evening when the sun isn't very intense? The answer from dermatologists is it depends on your UV index. There is a real index, a measured number, that tells you exactly how much radiation is hitting you at any given moment. Below a UV index of 3, healthy adults with typical skin generally do not need sunscreen. Above 3, they do. Your financial life has a UV index too. It is called your income to expenses ratio. And just like UV radiation, it is not always dangerous, but it is always present. It fluctuates, and you need to know your number. When your income comfortably exceeds your expenses, when your UV index is low, you have natural protection. You can absorb some financial hits without visible damage, an unexpected car repair, a medical bill, a slow month. You have enough cushion to handle it. When your income barely covers your expenses, when your UV index is high, you are exposed. Every unexpected cost is radiation hitting skin with no protection. The next hit might be the one that burns. The critical question is not, am I in financial danger right now? The critical question is, what is my current financial UV index? And the way you find out is by doing one simple calculation. Add up all of your fixed monthly expenses, rent, utilities, insurance, minimum debt payments, and compare that total to your monthly take-home income after taxes. If the difference is more than 20%, you have some natural protection. If the difference is less than 10%, you are essentially standing outside at noon in July with no sunscreen. You need to take action now, even if you don't feel the burn yet. Know your number, check your UV index. The sun doesn't wait for you to feel ready. Now here is one of the most popular myths in sun protection and one of the most popular myths in personal finance. Some people believe that if you build up a base tan before a beach vacation, you'll be protected. You expose yourself to a little sun in the weeks leading up to the trip. You build up some melanin, and then the big sun doesn't hit you as hard. Dermatologists are very clear on this. A base tan provides minimal real protection. We're talking about the equivalent of SPF 2 to SPF 4 at best. And to get that base tan, you have absorbed DNA damage. You paid a biological cost for protection that barely works. The financial equivalent of base tanning is keeping just enough money in savings to feel like you're protected, when the amount is actually nowhere near sufficient. People say, I have an emergency fund, I have $300 in savings, I have a little cushion. That is a base tan. It provides the psychological comfort of protection without providing the actual protection. And the problem is that you paid for it. You set aside that money. You made those choices. You feel safer than you should. And when the real emergency hits, the coverage isn't there. Real financial protection is a fully stocked emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of your fixed expenses, in a high-yield savings account set aside specifically and only for emergencies. If your emergency fund is less than 1 month of expenses, you have a base tan. It might make you feel better. But if the real storm comes, a job loss, a major medical event, a home repair that can't wait, SPF 3 is not going to save you. Build the real protection, not the one that just makes you feel like you have something. Let's talk about how sunscreen actually works, because most people have no idea, and the gap between what they think it does and what it actually does is costing them. Sunscreen does not block all UV radiation. It filters it. It reduces the intensity of radiation that reaches your skin. A good sunscreen application applied correctly, at the right amount, at the right frequency, reduces the effective radiation significantly, but it does not eliminate the exposure. This matters because people treat sunscreen as a permission slip. They put it on in the morning and then stay out all day without reapplying, without seeking shade, without any additional protective behavior because they feel protected. Your financial protection tools work exactly the same way, and people misuse them exactly the same way. A budget is not a guarantee. It is a filter. A well-designed budget, followed consistently, reduces your financial exposure significantly, but it does not eliminate it. It does not protect you from a sudden income loss. It does not protect you from a major medical expense. It does not protect you from a car that decides on a Tuesday to stop working. A budget is SPF 30. It is a meaningful protection. But you still need to reapply, meaning you need to review it regularly, adjust it when circumstances change, and combine it with other protective behaviors. Insurance is sunscreen for financial catastrophe. Life insurance, health insurance, disability insurance. These tools filter the financial radiation of major life events. But just like sunscreen, they only work if you actually use them at the right coverage level before the event happens. You cannot put on sunscreen after the burn. The most important thing to understand about how financial protection tools work is this: they work together, not independently. Sunscreen plus shade plus protective clothing plus reapplication. Budget plus emergency fund plus insurance plus regular review. No single tool is the answer. Protection is a system. If you have spent any time in the skincare space, you know this debate. Chemical sunscreen versus mineral sunscreen. Chemical filters like avobenzone and oxybenzone absorb UV radiation. Mineral filters like zinc oxide and titanium dioxide reflect and scatter UV radiation. The debate has been loud, passionate, and for most people, completely beside the point because both work. The relevant question is not which category is better. The relevant question is which one you will actually use correctly, consistently. In personal finance, we have the exact same debate, and it is just as much of a distraction. Stocks versus real estate. Roth IRA versus traditional IRA. Index funds versus actively managed funds. Every personal finance community has passionate champions of every approach, convinced that their method is the scientifically correct one and the others are dangerous. Here is the truth that the debate drowns out. Almost all of the mainstream financial tools, used correctly and consistently, produce reasonable outcomes for most people. The Roth IRA works. The traditional IRA works. Index funds work. Real estate works. A simple high-yield savings account works for the appropriate goal. The question is almost never which tool is chemically superior. The question is almost always, which tool will you actually use starting today and keep using over time? A mineral sunscreen you use every day beats a chemical sunscreen that sits in your drawer. An index fund you contribute to automatically every month beats a sophisticated portfolio strategy you set up, get confused about, and stop contributing to 6 months later. Stop looking for the perfect financial product. Find the one you will actually use. Set it up, automate it, reapply. This is where the sunscreen debate gets genuinely complicated and where the personal finance parallel gets genuinely important. Some sunscreen ingredients have been flagged in research studies as potentially problematic. Oxybenzone, for example, has been found in human bloodstreams at measurable levels after regular use. Some studies suggest potential hormonal disruption at very high concentrations. Environmental concerns have been raised about coral reef damage. The FDA has classified several chemical filters as not generally recognized as safe, not because they are proven dangerous, but because sufficient long-term safety data does not yet exist. Does this mean you should stop using sunscreen? No, it means you should be an informed consumer. Understand what you are putting on your body, why you are using it, what the evidence says, and what alternatives exist. Your finances have dangerous substances too, and I am going to name them plainly. High-interest consumer debt is a dangerous substance. A credit card carrying a 24% interest rate is not a financial tool. It is a financial toxin. Used occasionally and paid in full every month, it has minimal impact. Carried month over month, year over year, it is oxybenzone in your bloodstream, accumulating in places you cannot see, creating damage at a level you are not measuring. Payday loans are not a financial product. They are a biological hazard. Annual percentage rates that can exceed 300% are the financial equivalent of a substance that is definitively proven to cause damage at any exposure level. There is no safe dose. There is no, but I only used a little. The answer is elimination. Buy now, pay later tools, extended warranties on low-cost items, and rent-to-own arrangements all carry chemical profiles worth reading carefully before use. They are not universally dangerous, but they carry risks that are not advertised on the label. Read the label on every financial product you use. Ask, what does this actually cost me? What is the long-term exposure? What is accumulating in my financial bloodstream that I cannot see? Here is where I want to push back on something, because this conversation can go wrong in a specific direction, and I do not want that for you. Some people hear sunscreen has potentially dangerous chemicals and decide, I am done with sunscreen, I am going natural, no more chemical protection, and then they go out in the summer sun with nothing. That is not wisdom, that is a reaction. The sunscreen debate done correctly is a risk versus benefit calculation. The potential risks of chemical sunscreen ingredients at normal usage levels are small, uncertain, and long-term. The proven risk of no sun protection, skin cancer, which affects 1 in 5 Americans over their lifetime, is large, well-established, and very real. The math is not difficult when you look at the actual numbers. Your financial life requires the same kind of honest risk versus benefit thinking, and I have seen people get this wrong in both directions. Some people refuse to invest in the stock market because of the risk of loss. They keep everything in a savings account. They sleep well at night. They feel safe. And then 20 years later, inflation has quietly eroded 30 or 40% of the purchasing power of their savings, and they wonder why the money isn't going as far. That is the equivalent of avoiding sunscreen to protect yourself from chemical exposure and then dying of melanoma at 65. Some people swing the other direction. They take excessive financial risk in search of massive returns. Cryptocurrency, speculation with money they cannot afford to lose. Options trading without a safety net. Highly leveraged real estate in a volatile market. They feel bold. They feel like they are being smart about money. Some of them win. Many of them burn badly. Real financial wisdom is not about eliminating risk. It is about calibrating it. How much risk can you afford to take, given your specific situation, your timeline, your income stability, and your emergency fund? What is the minimum protection you need in place before you start accepting more exposure? Understand your own UV index, dress accordingly, and then go live your life in the sunshine. Now we get to one of the most emotionally charged questions in the entire sunscreen debate. Could the thing meant to protect you actually be causing harm? There are studies, legitimate studies, peer-reviewed research, suggesting that oxybenzone in particular may have hormonal effects at high concentrations. There are researchers who are genuinely concerned. This is not conspiracy thinking. This is science doing what science does, asking uncomfortable questions and following the data. But here is what the data actually says right now at this moment. The scientific consensus is that the risk of skin cancer from UV exposure is far better established and far larger in magnitude than any known or potential risk from the ingredients in approved sunscreens. Using sunscreen is the correct public health recommendation. The uncertainty about ingredients is real. The certainty about UV damage is larger. I want to apply this framework to what I think is one of the most misunderstood areas of personal finance: protection products that people fear may be secretly working against them. I hear this about life insurance. People are suspicious of whole life insurance products, and for good reason. Some of them are genuinely missold, overpriced, and structured to benefit the seller more than the buyer. But the conclusion some people draw, that all life insurance is a scam, that they are better off with nothing, trades one risk for a much larger one. I hear it about financial advisors. Some advisors are bad actors. Some charge too much. Some recommend products that serve their commissions before your interests. But the conclusion that you should never work with any advisor, that you are always better off alone, dismisses a tool that, used correctly, protects your financial future in ways that spreadsheets alone cannot. I hear it about investing itself. The market can go down. Accounts have lost value. People were burned in 2008. So some people decide, I am not investing. I am keeping my money where I can see it. And slowly, silently, inflation burns them from the inside. The question is never, could this protection tool hurt me? The question is always, what is the cost of protection and what is the cost of no protection? Do the actual math. Look at the actual numbers. Do not let fear of a potential risk push you into the certainty of a larger one. And now, my favorite section, the one I want to close with, because this is where so many people make such a confident and quietly catastrophic mistake. SPF stands for sun protection factor. And most people's mental model of SPF goes something like this. SPF 15 blocks roughly half the rays. SPF 30 blocks most of them. SPF 50 blocks almost all of them. SPF 100 blocks everything. Therefore, get the highest number. Here is what SPF actually means. SPF 15 blocks approximately 93% of UVB radiation. SPF 30 blocks approximately 97%. SPF 50 blocks approximately 98%. SPF 100 blocks approximately 99%. Do you see what is happening? The difference between SPF 30 and SPF 100, a number that sounds more than 3 times better, is approximately 2 percentage points of protection. The jump from nothing to SPF 15 gives you 93 points of protection. The jump from SPF 15 to SPF 100 gives you 6 more points, spread across an enormous range of numbers. The math is not linear. The returns diminish rapidly. And yet people are paying for SPF 100, applying it once in the morning and going outside for 8 hours in direct sun when the thing that would actually help them is SPF 30, applied correctly every 2 hours. Your financial life is full of flawed SPF math, and I want you to be able to recognize it. Here is one of the most common versions: the savings rate debate. People obsess about whether to save 10% of their income or 15% or 20%. They read articles, they run calculators, they argue about the right number. And often, they never actually start because they cannot decide what the right number is, or they cannot afford the number they think is right, so they save nothing while they figure it out. The jump from saving 0% of your income to saving 3% is enormous. It is the jump from no sunscreen to SPF 15. It builds the habit. It changes the behavior. It accumulates over time. The jump from saving 15% to saving 20%, while meaningful, is the jump from SPF 50 to SPF 100. The actual difference in your life at retirement is real, but far smaller than the numbers suggest, and it is not worth delaying starting. Start with what you can. Increase gradually. The habit of saving applied consistently over decades beats the perfect savings rate that you never quite got around to implementing. Here is another version of flawed SPF math that I see constantly. People comparing investment fees. A fund with a 0.05% annual expense ratio versus a fund with a 0.5% expense ratio. Both are very low. Both are good. The difference over 30 years on a $100,000 portfolio is meaningful, roughly $30,000. But both of these outcomes are vastly better than the outcome of not investing at all, which is what happens when people spend 6 months comparing fees and then choose neither. Do not let the pursuit of the perfect SPF number prevent you from putting on any sunscreen at all. Good enough applied consistently, starting today, beats perfect, never started. Here is what I want you to walk away with. Your financial health follows the same rules as your skin health. Damage is cumulative and begins long before you feel it. Invisible exposure is still exposure. The protection tools that exist are real, imperfect, and far better than no protection at all. The debates about which tool is best are mostly distractions from the more important question of whether you are using any protection at all. And the math is almost never as linear as it looks. The single most important thing you can do right now before you do anything else is check your financial UV index. Add up your fixed monthly expenses. Compare them to your take-home income. Know that number. It is the foundation of every other smart financial decision you can make. If this conversation was useful to you, share it with someone who needs it. A family member who is stressed about money, a friend who is putting off starting savings because they haven't found the perfect plan. Send them this video. And if you have a question about your specific situation, about any of the tools we talked about today, drop it in the comments. I read them. This channel exists to give you straight answers about real money decisions, and the best way I know to do that is to start with the questions you are actually asking. I will see you in the next video.